You on? Okay, personal story. I'll give you like a brief remix story. When I was, I want to say 10 or 11 years old, in Marlboro Heights Baptist Church, right up here. One Sunday, I decided to see whether or not I would get in trouble, which I always did anyway. A friend of mine named Eddie had a pocket full of BBs, and in his other pocket, he had rubber bands. Being the naive youngster I was like, hey, what are we gonna do with those? And he was like, today we get revenge on everybody who gets us in trouble every Sunday. And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, fool, we're gonna shoot people with these BBs. I was like, in church, God gonna get us. He was like, nah, man, I got a plan. So his plan, which was poorly conceived, was to launch this assault first during devotion, second during the prayer before offering, and third during the benediction. So he started shooting people. Bam, bam, bam. We're laughing, dying laughing, because people are getting hit in their foreheads, their necks, their teeth. So we're laughing. But then it's my turn. And he's like, okay, Paul, I need you to aim for the choir director. And I was like, I'm not gonna actually shoot people in church. He was like, yeah, it's your turn. I've done my dirt. Now it's your turn to do dirt. I was like, okay, cool. Now back then, I wore glasses that were a lot thicker than the ones I have on now, because I can't see at all. Keep that in mind. So I'm trying to focus on my target, which was the choir director behind the preacher giving the prayer, right? So I'm trying to focus. My father, who's the head deacon at the church, was in the pulpit because he fills up the water pitcher. Now, as I'm aiming, everything else is blocked out. Eddie starts tapping me on the shoulder, trying to tell me something, but I'm focused, I'm locked in. So, as I rear back on the BB and let go, he taps me one last time really hard, and my aim goes from here to right here, which unfortunately is directly headed toward the preacher who's giving the prayer. So as the BB leaves the rubber band, I'm looking at it hurtle through his face, and out of my peripheral vision, I notice my father is staring directly at me, which is a bad thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So anyway, watching the BB hurtle through his face, and it's going directly for the forehead of the preacher giving the prayer. So like in slow motion, me and Eddie were like, no. We're like, stop, BB. Well, unfortunately, we couldn't stop it. Make a long story short, the BB hits the preacher in the head that's giving the prayer. Hey, man. Brothers, it just hit me while I was praying. We're dying laughing because we know the Holy Spirit didn't hit him, a BB hit him. We're dying laughing. And my father gets on the microphone and he says, well, Pastor, it wasn't the Holy Spirit, it was my son. And so we're still laughing. It didn't register that he said it was my son. But then he says my full government name. He says Paul Eugene Finnan. So I turned to my friend Eddie and I'm like, fool, he just said my whole name. We gotta run. He's like, what are you talking about, run? We're in the middle of church. I'm like, I don't know, think of something. So we jump on the ground and start crawling under the benches to the back door. Where we're going, I don't know. Anyway, so we're crawling under the benches, knocking purses out of the way, legs, programs. We get to the last row, the last bench, and there are a big set of feet in the way. And so I'm like, Eddie, these feet won't move. He's like, just hit them on the toes. And I'm like, what? Hit him on the toes. So I hit him on the toes. I'm like, nothing happened. He was like, hit him again. So I hit him again. I turn, all I see is dust Eddie is leaving to the other side of the church. I'm by myself. As I turn back, I see this big hand come down, grab me by the back of my neck, pick me up. It's my father. Escorts me to the back, the nursery, which should be called an interrogation room anyway. Escorts me to the back. They question me about my role in the assassination attempt and all this stuff. And I stutter when I lie, so I'm like, what happened with Eddie? Eddie had brought BBs and I like your hair today, Daddy, and your suit is nice. And so basically, my lying or lack thereof wound up getting me in trouble because Eddie comes in, stone-faced, stone-cold liar. He's like, well, sir, we're sitting in church when Paul came up with a plan to exact revenge on everybody in the building. So he asked me to assist him in shooting people with BBs. And I'm sitting there thinking, boy, you're lying, but all that came out was, but. So if you can learn a lesson from this, don't shoot people in church. Good story.